Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. I'm Sue, and you've just stepped into Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Every week, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine, a remarkable entrepreneur who's not just changing the world, but also harnessing a secret weapon, time outdoors. Together, we'll dive into their journey, unpack invaluable business advice, and discover why embracing the wild is not just good for the soul, but also a goldmine for inspiration and innovation. Ready to uncover the secret that's boosting bottom lines and fueling joy? Hit subscribe and join us in the wild. All right, guys, this is going to be so cool. This week we've got calls that are like this. If you could have designed this week, you couldn't even done any better than what we've got going right now. So we've got Jackson today. This is so cool. Like 96% of businesses fail within their first 10 years. I'm not going to let that happen. You're working too hard on this. This is such your passion, your thing. You've aligned with your purpose. So it's got to work. I mean, we're going to make this. Give it every chance we've got anyhow. So I'm really excited to introduce Jackson. I didn't even check. How do I say your last name?
No worries. Calame or Calame. Just don't go with the Calame one. I'm not a big fan of the lame version.
I know that could kind of get you beat up in school, probably. Well, I am so happy to have you here. You've got this incredible background. I met you through Stacy Lauren's group, as we figured out. It's so funny. You start meeting all these people. You're like, where did I meet them?
That's right.
So super cool. Would you please just give a quick introduction of yourself, and then we're going to dive in.
Absolutely. Well, the positive side of that spin, right? Yes, 96% fail, 4% survive. That's also scary, right?
Yeah.
But well, I know we want to get to that other side, and it's because they don't have the processes and systems and the leadership skills in order to create a culture people want to belong to. But if you fix that, right? If you look at, well, wait a second, what are these entrepreneurs doing that have repeated success? And you adopt those habits and those principles, you can create certainty of success. So it's about the variables, and I get very passionate about that. I'm a single father of 4 children, 13, 10, 8, and 3. I love them. If you go to my Facebook, you'll see it says DAD is greater than sign CEO. I've been a stay-at-home dad since 2010, not since COVID, for long before that, and trying to help families understand the value of balance and harmony, trying to learn to be my best self. That was a really hard concept to grasp. When I finally grasped it, I was like, oh, cool. I don't need to be an example. I just need to be me. And now I work on doing that, just being me and helping people the best way I can. Usually it's through the experience of sharing stories of trial and error.
That's a good thing. I mean, we humans, we learn from stories, and trial and error is like, what is the saying? You're really smart if you learn from your mistakes, and you're brilliant if you learn from somebody else's mistakes. So.
Correct. I got a little bit of both.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, I'm so excited. This is so cool. Are you also homeschooling your kids, or?
No, so I wanted to, but we, you got 2 opinions in marriages, and obviously I didn't do too well on the opinion side of that.
Right. Well,
I strive real hard to honor. I'm twice divorced too, and my hope with that is to, it's funny, and that first divorce, going through that, the amount of friends and family that called me to see how I was doing, it wasn't within 5 to 7 minutes before each one of those friends said, hey, you look like you're doing really well and like you're happy. We're considering a divorce. Should we go that route? And I was like, well, let me talk to you about why I'm doing well and happy. I gave everything I could to my marriage. I tried really hard to save it. And I did everything I could to show up for my kids, show up for my wife. And then they start to realize, I was walking people off the ledges of their own divorces. So I'm a big fan of the sanctity of marriage. And I hope that my story will inspire more entrepreneurs to pay attention to what's going on inside the home as well, and hopefully motivate their spouses as well to stick together. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. So I'm also on my second marriage. It's a night and day thing, but wow, business ownership can do some damage. It's definitely a contributing factor for a lot of divorces, I'm sure, but I'm excited to hear everything you got for us. But why don't you, I always like to walk people what was the spark? How did you become an entrepreneur, and kind of walk us through that journey?
Yeah, for sure. So Entrepreneurship was one of those words I didn't know how to spell and didn't know anything about, and I didn't gravitate towards calling myself an entrepreneur until later. I remember meeting my first serial entrepreneur, and I was probably 21 or so, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like he must be the thing." I'm aging myself a little bit, but I got into network marketing. Before that, I'm going to go in all sorts of backwards order. I was on a mission, serving my church 2 years, and I had a very strong epiphany. I'll save the story for another episode, where I knew I got slapped by something, and it said, "Why don't you go home, take advantage of your education for once, learn about business, and help as many towns like this as possible." And I had no business being in business, Sue. I had a 0.33 GPA.
Oh, yeah.
I was not a kid that was going to go on to Harvard or Yale or anything like that. But I now had this call, and I knew I needed to figure out my way into business. And so the threshold of crossing from independent contractor to working with a startup, and our startup was invested in by Paul Buchheit, the inventor of Gmail, and Matt Cutts, the search director of Google. And the next thing you know, I didn't want to just be an employee, I wanted to be a founder. So I co-founded Restaurant Connect and became a junior co-founder. And then we raised money with the Baylor Angel Network. And then Video Power Marketing calls me, and Jake says, "Jackson, the most critical person I've ever met. Should I launch this business thing?" And I was like, "I would have told you yes a year ago, but you kind of have to be nuts to start a business." It's hard, dude. It's so hard. I was like, "Tell me your story." And he's like, "Well, I was asked by the founder of YouTube to represent YouTube ads before the platform launched. And so I went out and we designed the process to where if there was, if the ad sucks, you should be able to skip it after 5 seconds." And so that blessed our lives. And then Jake went and launched this program called How to Turn Your Views into Sales. And so I gave him some feedback on that, helped him launch his course a little bit, and that was my foray into business. There's everybody can follow that path, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's one of those things that it sounds like it at times it escalated very quickly, but it's definitely not the overnight, overnight success.
Oops, ouch. It was all over the place.
Yeah, like, "Ooh, that hurt. Ooh, don't do that one again." That's amazing. And then what are you doing?
So I run a company called First Class Business. That's our umbrella. We help market leaders. We help people become market leaders. So a lot of brands claim that. And our tagline is, "Hey, Batman, let us be your Alfred." Right? Batman didn't do it alone. He needed Alfred, he needed Fox. They were usually the ones that saved his life over and over again. They provided the infrastructure and the stability for Batman to go do what he needed to do. And so entrepreneurs, there's this tagline, solopreneur. So I've never, ever met a successful solopreneur, ever. I have met people who will claim it, but as soon as you see behind the scenes, they either stepped on all the people who helped them get to where they are, or it's a complete lie. And you can't see it because it's a private company, so you can't really tell just how much their spouse is paying for their business to succeed or stay alive. Or you can't see just how much struggle and how much debt they're in, whether they're making $20 million with $1 million in personal debt, or they get thrown in prison due to tax evasion, and then you can see it publicly. I have seen too many situations to know that I've never met the solopreneur unicorn. I help people establish their teams, and we also have a very fun podcast called Vision Pros Live. We want people to come and share their visions with us and tell us about what they're up to, how they're helping in the world. As long as you're helping in the world and not wearing glasses you can't afford and standing in front of cars you don't truly own, like, come and tell us about your vision, and let's get after it. Let's make it happen.
I love that. I mean, there are so many. I still laugh at some of the cheesy.
I think I lost you for a minute, Sue, but I
Oh
love
no.
the path we were on.
I was saying that, there were so many of these, like, sitting in front of my Lambo in my garage with these girls, and it's like, what? Like, that used to be the thing, right?
It still very much is, unfortunately.
And back then too. So I got going in 2005, and I know everything was like, you build in secret, like you don't tell anybody because somebody's going to take your idea, blah, 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 And now it's
So silly.
completely the opposite, like building in public, bringing people in, like that whole thing of solopreneur. Like, you're right. Like, there is no way that just doesn't happen. Like, we call them, maybe some people are loosely like, oh, yeah, but you got to have a team. There has to be. And even if you don't have a team, you've got people like your family, like, and your community who are kind of lifting this thing, carrying it on their shoulders. So
Yes.
huge,
Truly
huge.
successful communities, people who are a little bit more snarky often call the solopreneurs entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
No, like it's
Yeah.
you,
It's a
you can
thing.
boldly claim it, but it's again, I just don't. Again, and power to you if you've been able to make it happen as a solopreneur. I certainly don't want to tear down what you've been able to do. J.K. Rowling wrote a book on a napkin and became a billionaire. So what do I know?
It's true. It could happen. I mean, yeah, I think authors, maybe it works a little bit more, but still, you've got a team. You've got, editors and
Publisher.
publishers and,
Yeah,
all
you got
that
after it.
stuff. It's wild. So, guys, if you haven't listened to Jackson's Vision Pros, a very, very cool podcast. So check that out for sure. But
Come and join us.
yeah, baby. And I think I was just on it, but I mean, it was like a
We
preliminary
had your
thing,
first
so-
episode, right?
Nice.
Did you
Yeah.
record
Yeah.
with Javanka or did you record with Harry or Barbara Ann? Do you remember?
I think it was Harry.
Harry?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Pretty sure it's Harry. So
Well, and I'm excited for you to come back. So we're all about trying to explore those visions at great levels. Our audience, we want them to be able to know, like, and trust the individuals we're working with. We meet people who are actually getting after it. Like, you got all the right virtues, and yeah, we want to see it come to fruition.
that's so cool. And also, so I will just speak out right out, giving a public shout out to Ange on your team.
Oh, she's the best.
Boy, and she might be your right arm and your left arm, maybe a left foot
Everything.
too. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, she's the best executive assistant I've ever had. She
on it.
is so good at all that she does and so loving. She's also in the top 10 executives I've ever worked with. Her centeredness and ability to learn, her willingness to dive in. She doesn't take offense. She knows how to communicate. I cannot say enough about Ange Castro.
That's so cool. She's fantastic. And she has a podcast as well. What is it called? I can't remember.
She does. I know her company name is Timecraft Virtuals, and the podcast may follow the same vibe, but yeah, she does host other podcasters, and it's fun because she's built her entire brand and system through our systems that we provide to entrepreneurs, and it goes like, if you empower your people to build their visions and you take interest in their visions, it's amazing how much they want to stick around and be part of things and help things grow, versus that old suppressive mentality or oppressive mentality of like, no, don't work on anything else and sign this NDA while you're at it and make sure you're not competing against us and don't do, like, what the heck? Like, could you be any weaker?
Right. It's like the rising tide lifts all ships. What the heck, Like, this is just how humans do well.
It's crushing. And out of all that she does on that, again, big shout out to Ange. She runs circles around the entrepreneurs that are supposed to be doing their part in our programs. I love the entrepreneurs I work with. Don't get me wrong. They're awesome. But she runs circles around all of us. And so anybody who complains about, well, this is kind of a lot of work, I'm like, yeah, no, not after seeing Ange do what she does with it. Like, no, I don't want to hear it. It's not that much work.
She may be a superhero, though. We're wondering. All right, so let's go into this. So a lot of the people in this community we've got a lot of physical products people, we've got a lot of coaches, we've got a lot of service provider, other types of service providers, some brick and mortar, some B2B. What can you share with us advice wise and tips wise and what you've learned? Let's hear from your mistakes and what's actually going to work for people.
For sure. I'll start with what I don't see talked about in the world. So Simon Sinek was so close with Start With Why. Right. And I love Simon. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I would not care about his book if I did not believe in who he is as a leader. Mm-hmm. I believe in starting with who. Right. If we really gravitate towards who is the type of person we want to work with, right, and who are we as leaders, what are our values, what are our virtues, then we establish the why are we doing what we're doing. If you're on the same page about those aspects, the what and the how is easy. So many entrepreneurs want to know, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How in the world would I know what we are going to do? I don't even know what you stand for.
Yeah.
I don't even know who you are as a person or how you show up as a leader. And most marketers, most agencies, most growth consultants, most coaches, they have an agenda. I mean, we all have agendas, but their agenda is so driven around, I got to get this contract. I got to keep my close ratios high. I got to make sure that I'm making sure that myself is taken care of. They're not asking all the questions that they need to be asking in order to really understand, is the entity that I'm working with filled with people who align really well with my why and with how I want my day-to-day to feel. Now, in addition to that, that process, there are other aspects of growth that need to be taken care of. But if you've gotten the right person in the right role and they have the right type of leadership, then those individuals are going to run the what's and the how's, and ideally they're the type of people who are going to empower you to understand it. So that goes back to a couple of traditional books. I wish I had read the E-Myth long before I did. I had it 8 years previously. I regret not reading it the day it came across my desk. And the 5 dysfunctions of a team, how to create championship level cultures, and how to build out those procedures, resources, and templates, or find somebody who can help you do that so that you can go about doing what you're best at, which is usually either taking care of customers or going on stage and talking about your vision at large.
Yeah. And that's amazing because both of those really are who, it comes down to that. And it's amazing how many, in network marketing, in anything, they're always like, find your why, make a bulletin board about your why, all this, and like having that why. But I think you're totally right. So entrepreneurs, the way I look at it, we take ownership of a problem we didn't cause. We serve people that have that problem, like with everything we've got. We find a solution for them. And it's usually a problem we had, right? But It's like, if we have those people and we're able to just love on them,
yes,
that's going to be the thing,
100%.
It's all in the people. And that's, Stacey Lauren, where we met, her big thing, like her big TED talk that she just did was about her, my people, like being able to serve and having those people come alongside. And it's like, I think if we remember that first, because the why can get tricky. That can become real quickly about me, right?
Yes.
My why, well, I want to do this for my family. I want to have freedom, but when you've got the who, it's a whole different thing. So
I love that. I hadn't tied the why to that before, and that was really brilliant that you looked at it that way, because it is what turned me off to most small businesses and working with small businesses. Is you're consulting with me, say, well, why do you want to build what you're building? And they're like, well, I want a bigger house, and I want to pay for my kids' school, and I want to be able to vacation. I want, and I want, and I want, and I want, and I want. And it's like, okay, we can't market any of that.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares about that. Everybody has that same desire. You're not special in that. Like, who doesn't want to provide, for their family? That's,
Exactly. It's not leadership.
Yeah, definitely. All right, keep going.
Awesome. So we're big on bringing principles back into reality that businesses are overlooking too. And so I'm going to give as much as I can throughout this process. And again, I hope that you guys gravitate towards realizing, get the who. Because if somebody gave me 2 weeks to build the bullet train, for instance, I wouldn't spend my 2 weeks trying to build the bullet train. I would try to get a hold of Elon Musk. Right? I would try to get a hold of the engineers and the people, like, who do you know that can help me? Right? That's all I would be looking at, is who's going to help with the process, not what is the process we're going to follow. And that's what most of us need to be doing as entrepreneurs. So some of the principles we can look at that are overlooked in today's business world is people lead with offers and invitations. And it's like, oh my gosh, I got to get the best offer out there and I got to drive conversions. Well, I joke around that conversion addicts are a lot like cocaine addicts. Right? That's all they care about.
You're right.
Yeah. And it's hard because as a business owner, we do want and need conversions, but how are we going about driving those conversions often is going to dictate how well we do long-term with the business as well. So imagine I come up to you and I'm an absolute stranger and I'm like, hey, do you want to buy cookies from me? And I'm like going nuts about it. And everybody else already loves my cookies. And that's what LinkedIn looks like right now, is it's just spam trash of people coming at you with offers, and it looks like a bunch of hobos, professional hobos. That's what it is. And so let's take a step back and think through, survival instincts and
Mhm.
human beings and human nature. If somebody knocks on my door right now, my heart's going to go through the roof. I'm like, oh, is it the police? Is it a robber? Is it my daughter? You know, there's a lot of people who
Yeah.
could knock at the door, but our survival instincts don't know how to engage with that. So
Mm.
then if it is my daughter and she says, hey, Dad, I made some cookies, now she's planted seeds in my heart and in my mind that are attracting me. So I'm going from intrigued to attracted. And yeah, if she says, they're chocolate chip, they're your favorite, now she's gone from intrigue, attract to inspire. And now that she's inspired me and given me the chance to respond to, we can start building a healthy relationship. Now, if I go take all of her cookies right now, I'm the type of client you don't want, right? Somebody comes in like, well, give them to me now. Or like, how much do I have to pay for these? Right? Careful with those types of relationships. They don't turn out well long term. So then, all right, so you got intrigue, attract, and inspire. Then you can give an invitation. An invitation can come with an offer, but sometimes it's good to just allow things to progress a little bit more naturally. Hey, would you like a cookie? I'm like, yeah, I'd like a cookie. And she said, well, they're $10, Dad. Whoa. Like she made cookies with my ingredients. And now I've got to evaluate, like, is this really something that I want? Like, I don't know. And if she doesn't support me, if she gets mad, she says, who are you to question my pricing? Like most coaches, most providers in the world, if you can't hang in an evaluation that's healthy, what are you doing in business? Right now she says, well, Dad, I made these for a service project. I'm going to be giving them away to the neighbors. So I figured I'd offer you one. But if you don't want to pay, that's okay. I'll just use them for the service. Now there's urgency on her side. There's true sense of scarcity. She hasn't pulled the wool over my eyes or tried to get me to buy from some unhealthy objective that has to do with tactics that are just rawly placed. No, there's a process, and it's hard to allude to all of that and put it in order without the picture, but I'll send you the power marketing funnel, because the marketing world has been built around this marketing funnel for 100 years. And the marketing funnel that has been shared teaches awareness. You got to drive awareness. You got to drive intent. You got to get people you got to drive interest. You got to get people considering. You got to get people intent. And then they're going to want to purchase after they evaluate. And it's like, okay, like all those things need to get done, but how the heck do I influence all of that? Yes. I'd never seen anybody bridge those gaps. So it was an inspiration that hit me one day, and I was like, okay, if I intrigued and then we attract and then we inspire, we're creating healthy relationships on the front end. And what that leads to is a sense of security in the back end. And if we're also willing to provide support and not get defensive and not get reactive about what it is we're offering, or we're not feeling like we have to justify our prices because we've created an offer that is logical and makes sense, and we ignore the voices that attack our offers. If somebody's attacking your offer, or they're saying it doesn't make sense, you either messed up in the presentation and didn't ask them enough questions about what they need, and you should have never made an offer to begin with, or they're manipulating you because they've learned enough from Shark Tank about how to bargain and negotiate and get the deal, and it's in their best interest. Yeah. So those are all principles that, again, on the surface they look easy, but just like marriage is, probably could do really well with kindness and love. Holy crap, that's hard to do.
Yeah. No, I think it's so good. Last week we had, or might have been 2 weeks now, I had Alicia Barr on, who's the black sheep sales method.
Oh, fun.
And it was so cool. Like, I've gone through high ticket sales training and all, and it feels combative. It feels like you want to vomit. It does not feel human. It doesn't feel good. It's not service. It's just like powering through like a battering ram. Yeah.
Who trained, right? There are trainers in that space that know how to respect, love, and appreciate healthy boundaries, and there are ones who don't know a dang thing about healthy boundaries. I used to be that guy. I used to be a lot like Grant Cardone. Yeah. And I would use words of manipulation and coercion and create this sheeple effect. And again, I love you, Grant Cardone, as a person, but I hate your processes.
Yes.
Right? That's not the type of leadership that I want to gravitate towards and that I want to facilitate. So I've got to find leaders who have those types of methodologies mastered, but also are a big fan of creating healthy relationships.
I think that's so amazing. Like, there's that book, Who Not How. I've been focused on that for the last, I'm just like obsessed with that, Who Not How at this point. So I see in our, like watching right now live is this woman, Tiffany, who has created this is so cool. We just had a call yesterday. She's created a cat food. She's like the cat lady, right? She's created a cat food that's very low weight. It's extremely like it's palatable protein. Like they can thrive on this, like a tablespoon of this a day, and they're good. It's for very sick cats, and it's super lightweight. It's got like black soldier fly larva, and some mushrooms and all this. Okay. It occurred to her, I'm down in Appalachia, so we've been chatting a bit, and she's been like watching. We have mule teams taking supplies into people up in the hills, and it occurred to her, she's like, this is actually like humans can eat this. This is totally like, it will keep you alive. It doesn't taste good, but it will keep you alive, and it's lightweight. So if somebody's like backpacking into the mountains to go help people, they can't, all right, they've got water, can't really change the weight of that. But this is something like, wow, if they brought a pound of this stuff with them, that could really, save lives. So we were chatting about like, okay, how can you move forward with this? And it's seeing like this, it just lit her up, drawing that connection between, I have this thing, here are these people in need. This is off-label use, but maybe I can make this happen. But again, it just came from, we've been talking a lot about who in our, in the group, and just, kind of, through Stacy's world and all that. And it's a huge thing. It's your whole brain opens to new possibilities,
If we were to dive in deep, for the sake of Tiffany on this, right? We have to grow thick skin as entrepreneurs. We have to be willing and ready and love to get the feedback. And that's the first thing I would say is I see so many people who have a great product or a great idea, and they're so sensitive. They want to position. They always want their product to be talked about in the best of lights. And I don't want that. I want people to give me the vulnerable truths, the realities of what they've experienced with my products and service, because that's going to help me capture more hearts and minds than anything else, is understanding how to relate to the audiences that don't necessarily get it but could benefit. And the best pill, if we had the best pill to cure cancer, there's a 99.9% chance that it will fail because they don't know how to market it. They don't know how to talk about it. If we don't learn how to position irresistible offers, if we don't know how to meet people where their expectations are and help them aspire to greater paths as well and create loyalty and all those things, then unfortunately the majority of great products and solutions out there end up failing because the founder can't take the feedback. They want people who are in their life who are going to make them feel good. And it goes back to that who, and it's like, okay, Radical Candor, phenomenal book, simple chart. I love the chart. It talks about how most people in our life that we gravitate towards practice ruinous empathy. They make us feel good because they love us, but they literally won't tell us what needs to be resolved in order for us to move our life forward. Versus Radical Candor, these individuals are not mean. They're people who love you enough, who will also help you see, you know what? Maybe talking about it that way might actually hurt the brand. And maybe if you don't bridge this gap of your weakness and your threats here, you're not likely going to win. Most people in today's society would label somebody with radical candor as narcissistic or as somebody who doesn't support them. Couldn't be further from the truth. So how do we recognize the who's without accidentally boxing ourselves in with yes men who mean well but don't necessarily have the qualifications? Your heart hurts. We'll lay down and just take it easy. Versus the doctor is like, let's run the assessments necessary, and if we have to cut your chest open in order to save you, then we will. People gravitate far away from those individuals, and entrepreneurs need that.
Oh, definitely. I think it's I listen to a lot of Myron Golden. He talks a lot about, sometimes you need to hurt somebody to help them. Yep. It's just as possible to harm them by helping them. It's like there's that sense of, what I mean? Like helping and hurting and harm. Yeah, it totally, he says it much better. But all right, so keep going. This is great stuff.
Well, I I hope that entrepreneurs, if you struggle with that, I can't really help you, by the way. I don't know
Yeah.
how to help fix that. I'm the guy who says it like it is. I get in trouble a lot with relationships in that regard. People who can't get their ego out of their way. We all have ego. Nobody's immune to not having it. The moment you say I don't have an ego is one of the moments it's like, well, they obviously have an ego. Right? We've all got blind spots. The key to diving in and looking at our blind spots is working with people that have differences than us. And this book right here, yet another opportunity. This is my favorite book to recommend. The Effective Executive. Bill Gates said this was one of his top 5 favorite books. Warren Buffett said this was one of his top 5 favorite books. And I heard LeBron James talk about this book as being one of his favorite books. And so I went to buy it and I saw that nobody was recommending it. Like, it's very low recommendations compared to others. And I was like, why is that? Why is Rich Dad Poor Dad more popular than this? I love Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then I realized, oh, Rich Dad Poor Dad is the alphabet of books in business. Like, it's the starting point. This book is very hard to comprehend and it's very hard to implement. So I find entrepreneurs who've read this, 99% of them don't practice it. So our key and our opportunity to join that 1% of who benefits is we have to be willing to read the books. We have to be willing to implement these resources to make this easy. The Effective Executive, Peter Drucker talks about if you want to have tremendous results, you got to work with great people. But people who have tremendous strengths always come with tremendous weaknesses. Entrepreneurs usually want somebody who's perfect on paper. They want somebody who's got it all figured out.
Yeah.
You're not going to win. You're going to end up with mediocrity, as he puts it in that book. Step 2, we want things done in 20-minute Zoom coffee meetings. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
That is a recipe for disaster. It's get rich quick in the making. We need to spend, as Peter Drucker puts it, more than 2 to 3 hours per week with our executives. And they need lots of time to think. They need lots of time to go and do abstract things. And if you can't trust them to do that, or you can't give them the space to do that, you're not going to get results. He said you measure these executives not based on days, not based on weekly performance, not based on monthly performance, based on quarters. Most small businesses fire most of their people and change their systems within a matter of 1 quarter or 2 quarters. They are get rich quicking. We have to own where we are on the get rich quick bandwagon. We then have to stop doing it. And we have to start acting responsibly and by abiding by the law of the harvest.
Yeah. There's seasons to everything. You don't plant a seed. I got a garden out here. I wish you could plant a seed and eat from it the next day. It does not work like that.
We have generations that are addicted to the law of the microwave. They're all entitled. It didn't start with millennials. It didn't start with Gen Z. Other people invented the microwave. Just saying. All of us are used to getting instant results, and yet we complain about the lack of quality that comes during those instant results. Maybe it's time to reverse our habits and start moving back towards cultivating long-term results, the byproduct of which can be long-term success.
That's so good. So quarterly, not monthly, weekly, daily. That's good.
You gotta exercise faith and trust it. Yep.
That's hot. Let's go. That's fire.
Oh,
Jackson's bringing fire here. All right, keep going. We're ready for more.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. This is fun. I'm just going to keep going. Okay. So talk to me about your audience. We can niche down to one of the specific segments like products, for instance, or we can talk about maybe a universal challenge or maybe a universal idea that I will probably attack and destroy.
Let's do that. Yeah, it's probably split 30-30-30. So I think probably we'll do universal.
What's a common belief that you feel like people are coming to you with that you're like, I wish they were. I don't know if that's going to work out.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, man. I think having... the time scarcity stuff, like nobody's got they may not have the time or the resources to hire the people. And so they're trying to do all the things.
Perfect. I'm going to go with both the time scarcity and the one people avoid, the financial scarcity.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. Because we're all sitting on a gold mine in a first world country. and we are all making excuses as to why we can't fund things. If you're not willing to fund your vision, you have a pipe dream, period. You've got to be willing to fund it, and you have lots of access, but I'm not coming at you. I'm trying to come to you as an audience and say, you've got to take the blinders off and be willing to look at new perspectives, not just trust in me and not just run and tell people, well, why don't you invest? Like you've got to build the strategies and know how to talk to people about it too. But back to effective executive. I believe it's chapter 2. Chapter 2 is know thy time. It is one of the easiest ways to figure out how to know whether you are effective or not. And it is one of the most painful accountability realities you will go through if you are not a fan of accountability. As an entrepreneur, we have to love accountability in order to win. So he says, tell your secretary, and you're not allowed to fire her when you do this. Your secretary is going to track every single minute of your day and log what you do with your time. Don't do this yourself. Make sure somebody else is doing this. Well, I was broke at the time and had some serious limitations when it came to attracting teams. So I did it myself. I was like, all right, I'm just going to really hold myself accountable, make sure I don't lie. Right. And no, sure enough, for a guy who's known for being pretty effective, holy crap, I wasted a ton of time. And doing that exercise of logging and seeing where I put my time and then being willing to make upgrades. No, I couldn't become as efficient, as effective as the world's strongest man or LeBron James is in his life overnight. Yeah. I had to learn to do the exercises that went from being able to just lift that bar, right, to being able to put weights on it and then more weights on it. And I had to build myself up one day at a time to become more effective. We can carve out more time to do things. Absolutely. We have to stop telling ourselves that lame excuse that I don't have the time. No, if I didn't make the time, then I say I did not make the time. But I am not going to make the excuse that I didn't have it. We all have it. We just choose to do different things with our time. And when we own that, we can then move past it. On the financial side, in my program, Power Launch, which I don't recommend doing it by yourself. I have to condition this. We do give it away for free for anybody who wants to dive in. It's got the do-it-yourself style course type stuff. And that's one of the greatest disservices I can give to an entrepreneur, because they will go try to be the solopreneur and they will waste their time and they will waste their resources trying to figure it out themselves. But I wanted to create an environment of transparency where people could see how we do things and where we go. If any of you have testimonials and case studies in place already, you have the proof that you are actually great at what you do, and you have the principles of team and you have the infrastructure in place, there is a module buried in category 3, and it is called Raising Capital 101. It is one that if I did not know Sue and the quality of her audience, I would not share publicly, because in the wrong hands, that particular training could be used to create very, very nasty company situations where people aren't going to win and investors would get screwed over. But I would be doing our audience a disservice if I didn't give them the chance as adults to go use these resources as they see fit. My hope is you will use it responsibly, please. Raising Capital 101 walks people through the myths that almost all of you are dealing with, that you tell yourselves and you justify to not invest. 2, it then walks you through the capital available to you in many different forms, including the final form, which I go over, which is called promissory notes. Promissory notes are something that if I were to poll entrepreneurs, what capital investment methods have you heard of, and I left it blank so they had to fill it out for themselves, 99 out of 100 would not mention promissory notes because it's never talked about. People don't understand it. They don't even know if it's legal or not. It is legal. You do need to have the agreement in place. And then in that video, I walk you through how to have a healthy relationship and association with promissory notes, how to respect your friends and family in the process of considering them coming on as founding members, in addition to the people you've been selling your super low ticket stuff that's making you lose your mind, and how to make sure that you go through the onboarding process of filling that agreement out and how you set the expectations and standards so that when you do solidify it, you've created healthy boundaries where you're not ruining your relationships in the process of getting somebody excited. It is awful. Most people have the objection of getting to the stage where they say, I don't want to ruin my relationships with my family based on a business deal. Then don't.
Yeah.
Set healthy boundaries on the front end. But what will happen is if you become successful as a business owner and you didn't help your friends and your family in the process, they will look at you someday and say, they left me behind. Or they'll be the type of person who comes up to you and says, why didn't you tell me you were building this? I would have absolutely helped and supported you. No, they wouldn't. Not if you didn't go and talk to them proactively about the opportunity to invest in your vision. So that particular training is one that I'm trying to figure out how far do I want to scale that knowledge and information. But Sue, your audience, I'll give you the links. Y'all can dive in there, take a look at it. And again, please don't try to do it all on your own. It is a painful process to be an entrepreneur trying to go the solopreneur route.
That is for sure. And we need our people, like in every way,
Yes,
from funding to just ongoing to, the people that we serve. Like it's a people business.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
That's so cool. All right. I also want to hear about your favorite way to spend time outdoors. Like, how do you get your best thinking? Because here's what I'm thinking. Like, this is why we exist. My whole mission is get entrepreneurs off their screens, outside, get out there and like do it first rather than as a, like so often it's like, well, I'll do it after I'm guilty of it too. I'm like, and then I can, no, because here's why, when you're out there, it's like, the brain does some weird stuff at first. It's doing whatever you're doing. Like my favorite thing is mowing. I don't know why. I love to mow. So at first you're like, whatever. And there's that moment of, I don't know if I'm going to get any ideas. My brain's just like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden it just slides into like this groove, right? Into this flow, into the groove, into the track in there. And the ideas just come. And that makes the rest of your workday, or me at least, makes it just flow, because now I've got this inspired stuff that I can work with. So I suspect, and that's why I'm building the retreat center so they can have that here. And I try to do that with like, bringing people like you in, like to clear the decks so they can get outside first. Right.
Yes.
So what's your favorite way?
I'm going to speak as a healer because that's my general mantra. That's kind of who I am as a person. It would be fun to say like, I rock climb and I do all these really cool, extravagant things like all long-haired men should do. I had a back surgery at 28, and that took all of my favorite activities away from me for a while. Yeah. And because I blamed it and I was victim about it, I didn't get back into my full physical activity literally until about 35 days ago.
Oh, wow.
I spent almost 8 years making excuses, being the skinny fat guy and adopting that. And trying to find too what my new favorite activities were outside. So my old one, jet skiing. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved jet skiing because you could drive that thing as dangerous as possible. And the worst I ever did to myself was sprain my back, right? Because you're hitting a wall of water, not concrete. So I was like, I freaking loved to jet ski. That is my passion outdoors. Then nowadays though, that more healer mindset. I'll go play volleyball on Tuesday nights. So tonight's a volleyball night. And we play indoors though, not outdoors. We're in Texas. Come on, it gets hot.
It's too hot out there.
And but I love walking. I like to. Andrew Huberman has this strange practice where you do 3 deep breaths where you're thinking and feeling everything inside your body. Mm-hmm. And then you look at your hand and study that while you take these 3 deep breaths. And then you study an object that's within arm's reach. And then you study an object that's about 5 yards away. Then you look for something that's off on the distance, and try to look, to the absolute furthest distance. And then you do it again, and you go through it. And so it takes like 10 minutes to do, but it is a great way to get absolutely present in the here and now. That's cool. And I love to be present, like to be present with my kiddos. Traveling's fun, but I like meeting people. So the activities don't really drive me. When I go to Mexico, I'll take a bag of American candy with me, and I'll go buy a number of like reading glasses at the Dollar Tree, and then go down there and once I'm down there, I'll buy a case of water. Right, I'll go out to the local rundown soccer fields, right, and play play soccer with the kids. Whoever comes out, the adults come out, awesome. Let's just mix and mingle and have this experience. Handing that candy out, as well, like seeing their reactions for having something they may not have had before.
Oh, yeah.
Taking the glasses to an old folks home, or people that you meet that might need reading glasses, and leaving them behind with somebody to distribute the rest and delegating the process. Like, it's just, to me, I like to meet the people, the stories of what happened to what building or what war was fought and all that. Like, cool, and I get it, there's an important context, but I want to get to know the people.
That's the best part, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that
Outside
about
with
travel.
people, for sure. Inside with people, great. Like, I just want to be with people.
I can tell. That's good. Now, did you grow up shy, or did you grow up like kind of gregarious?
I was raised by my mom and my 5 older sisters, and they never expected to have a baby brother. And so they pretty much promoted me to the world. And so and then on my dad's side, his house there was alcohol, there was drugs, there was abuse of all kinds and all that. And I was a favorite child. So, being the favorite child and compared to the stepchildren that he was so awful to, it was a very nasty environment. So on one side, I was a recluse. On the other side, I was very open and out there. So early on, I was Myers-Briggs or DISC, whatever it was, said I was an extroverted introvert. Then I went through therapy at 16 years old to try to figure things out. Learned about being proactive and assertive, terms I'd never heard before. And I made a conscious decision to no longer feel the need to hide. And so those assessments, I think they're good, but I think a lot of people box themselves in permanently around personalities that are meant to, or that can evolve, and we can adjust to what it is we want in life. So I now really like my alone time because I am twice divorced. I learned some hard lessons on the second one about the Cinderella story. I'll leave it at that. And I came to realize, so I told my kids a few weeks ago, I was like, guys, there's something called a hermit. And I don't think I'm going that far, but I now really like my silent time more than ever. So if I'm ever edgy about noise, it's not because of you. It's because I'm not used to having the noise in the house. And so now I've got this strange mix of really liking my personal time, but also still, again, when I get to meet people and talk to people and hear what their stories are, let's go, let's do it.
That's so cool. It kind of boils down again to being very present with whichever circumstance you're in.
Yep.
And that's
being able to
super
appreciate
cool.
Right?
Yeah.
The journey is the destination, right? I love where I'm at. I can be grateful for it. Sure, I could whine and cry about it too, but and there are reasons why I could be today whining and crying. But we as entrepreneurs also need to have that ability to compartmentalize and recognize that there's a context in which we need to bring certain situations to life. It doesn't make us two-faced. It's a matter of being poised and knowing how do we want to show up and serve, or do we want to show up and be coddled?
That's huge. That's huge. All right, what's next for you? Long, not moving on to something, but on the long horizon for you. What do you foresee?
Oh man, there's so much. So we have 2 rally cries. The one that most entrepreneurs gravitate towards is we want to create a full appreciation for family and personal well-being within the workplace, not as a byproduct of. Single father of 4, if my kids come in, I want to greet them excitedly and I introduce them. I see so many entrepreneurs apologize, oh, I'm so sorry, well wait, I gotta go get my kids, and it's what the heck did you just apologize for?
Yeah.
They are the most important thing that you have. Why would you apologize and not honor them and honor me in the product? There's a lot we can do to uncondition and recondition corporate and other entities, even smaller entities, to realize that family matters. And so that's a big piece. The other rally cry that is my heart, where my heart and joy is we're bridging the economic gap between North America, South America, and rest of the world. So I have a team that speaks Spanish. I speak Spanish fluently. We have a program called Oportunidades de Trabajo para Latinos, Opportunities for Work for Latinos. You met Harry. Yeah. Harry's expanding opportunities to India right now.
Nice.
You met Ange. Ange has been expanding, she's crushing it. Opportunities for Filipinos right now. Not a franchise, just an entity that is growing, and we'll see what types of organizational infrastructures different board members decide to help us make regarding that. I don't get into the what and the how. I go and do with the right people because the why matters. We've got billions of people who need our help. The byproduct of that, so this is where it's going. I asked my team in February, I said, which ones of you want, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1, you absolutely hate the English language and you want nothing to do with it. 10, learning English is the most important thing in your life. Right? Where do you stand? And most of them said 10.
Wow.
Some of them said an 8. And I said, okay, for those of you who said 10, you either need a little bit more self-awareness, or if that's the case, you need to be doing everything you can outside of our company to learn English and submit what your plan is to learn, so we can support you on that. 2, for all of you who want to learn English, are you okay with it if I start paying you to learn English? So the beginning 30 minutes of your day, the first thing I want you to do is to spend your time learning English. Is everybody okay with that? They're like, oh my gosh, like, yes, of course. So you have a minimum of 30 minutes now required for English, and you have a maximum of up to 1 hour where you can spend on that. Now, while you're at work, we're gonna follow our process of learning English. I've got a strategy for this. Granted, I learned how to speak Spanish in 4.5 months. So
Oh my.
they can learn through our programs. But what I showed them how to do was go find the best teachers in the world through YouTube University, right? Go to youtube.com, search for any given phrase and start watching the shorts, go into their popular videos. And we learned over a series of weeks how to give gratitude while being vulnerable about what was learned, and how to ask comprehensive questions of the teacher, just like a great student would, asking great questions so that the student engages. And we created a catalog of all these influencers and what their stats are and where they're at in social media and what their courses are, etc. And then they launched their own podcast called Oportunidades Latinas. And so get this, Luisa, who had just joined our program, she had a LinkedIn profile with no information. She had just heard of it. She had never heard of Canva, never heard of Upwork, never heard of Fiverr. She had no idea that digital marketing or that podcasting existed. 6 weeks into working with us, she became the host for our show, and she hosted Kike Inglés. Kike Inglés has over 900,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Way to go.
Can you imagine
That's
your
awesome.
first guest never having known about podcasting, and he comes in and he's like, so awesome, you guys have this free program for people who want to learn how to learn English and like I want to get a job, like, and you guys, I guess, do this for free? And they're like, no, we get paid. Like, what? Who pays you? Right? And so it creates this really interesting opportunity. And in this situation, Kike Inglés got 900,000 subscribers, the majority of whom are trying to advance their careers. Can you imagine how many comments or messages you might get in that position of, can you hire me?
Wow.
Right? Do you know where I could go to get a job with all this information?
Yeah.
The overwhelm that would be, like, you'd have to have strategic partners, or you'd have to just ignore people, which can't. So that process has now expanded too, to where they're using that time to learn their systems, or using that time to connect with other influencers in different niches. The catalog continues to grow, and where will we go with it? I don't know. I mean, I like that. I like that Tim Ferriss shot down the idea of 10-year plans and was just kind of like, I don't plan more than 6 months out. I have ideas, and I've got big, hairy, audacious goals, and we've got some SMART goals, but today needs to be my best day, right? I need to just do my best today. And if I do that, knowing that part of today is planning tomorrow and the next day and so on, and take care of my people, I can go to bed happy.
Yeah.
That's it.
Man, that's pretty solid, Jackson. I like that.
I like it
So
too.
cool.
I feel a lot better about life than in years past when I was so addicted to expectations and entitlement. Like,
Yeah.
stupid
Whole
stuff.
different thing, right? It's just a mass. It's like an earth-shaking shift,
Yeah.
in the best way.
Earth calming, right? Earth
Yeah,
inflation.
actually, that's
Right?
right.
I think a
that's
lot
right.
of people are in there, earth shaking moment, like, oh my gosh, the president, oh my gosh, this, oh my
Yeah.
god. Don't get me wrong, my heart goes out to all those who are affected by some serious circumstances right now in the world. But sometimes we create that earth shake by the attitudes that we bring into our situations.
That's true. That is for sure, man. All right, where can people find out more about you?
If you're inspired by this interview, then I highly recommend going to visionproslive.com, knowing that you are a visionary. Apply to be a guest. Come share your vision. You don't have to be as advanced as a retreat center that Sue Anderson's building, or have the show like this. You don't have to, be the Elon Musks of the world getting to Mars. You can come on and we'll, of course, honor your show. We just want good people to come on the show. And Elon Musk, if you do want to come on the show, we'd love to have you too. We hope you're listening to Sue's show.
That would be so cool. And this is brought to you by Elon Musk's Starlink. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. This is fantastic. I'm thrilled to have had you here. I know this is going to be good meaty bones, and just a wonderful
All the
thing
good
for
stuff.
people to, yeah, all the good stuff. So thank you so much, and I hope you'll come back sometime too.
I'd love to. Anytime, Sue.
Wonderful. I'm going to kill the live. Don't go anywhere.